Okay, we're back. We're having technical difficulties. I'm sorry. I'm communicating with my producer. Okay, Kwame, can we roll the video? So this is the video I'm talking about. So this is the floor.
We're done. That's it. Take off that mask. That's the only way it's gonna work. Is if we all unite.
Can't you breathe better without it on?
No, we ain't gonna take it. We're not gonna take it anymore. You're free! You're free! You're free!
And that right there is the video. So that sparked me into like, what's really going on? I don't get it. But we're gonna find tonight if masks are really good for us or are they bad for us. Because I have friends who feel like they're bad. I have friends who feel like it's working. Some people feel like it's hazardous to us. So without further ado, introduce you to my friend, Dr. Leo Moore, aka the Practical M.D. Leo.
Kyrie,
Hey, what's up?
how are you tonight?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm great. Congratulations on your new show. Thank you for having me. I'm excited for the.
Thank you for being here. Thank you. So let's just COVID. Let's just jump right into it. Okay. So now explain to us exactly what is COVID-19.
All right. So COVID-19 is a virus. So COVID-19 literally stands for coronavirus disease 2019 because it was discovered in 2019 in an open air market in Wuhan, China. So there in China, in that market, they sold meats and vegetables. And so we think that COVID-19, this virus, actually jumped from some of the animal products that were sold and was then able to infect humans. And so we actually see that happen with some viruses that they start in animals and then can become infectious to humans. And then we saw that virus spread.
Okay. So it did actually come from a bat or not?
It did. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's not a myth. That's the truth.
That is truth. That is truth.
So now, there's symptoms of, what are some of the symptoms of COVID-19?
So I don't know if you remember, but at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, people were saying, oh, this is just like the flu. It's the same as the flu. And one of the reasons they were saying that is because a lot of the symptoms are the same. So people get chills, they get sore throat, they get muscle aches, they just feel extremely weak. We also have people having some of the upper respiratory symptoms like runny nose and things of that nature as well. But then some people get extremely sick and can have pneumonia. We've even seen people with nausea and vomiting and diarrhea. As this disease has continued to go on over the months, we're seeing more and more symptoms. We've seen children have multi-inflammatory syndrome, so inflammation throughout their entire body affecting their organs. And we've even seen that inflammation in adults leading to heart attacks, leading to acute respiratory disease where people are on ventilators. So this disease, one, is not the flu, and it lasts much longer than the flu. I mean, we're seeing people with symptoms from as little as 2 weeks all the way up to over 12 weeks. So this is not the flu, and it can have really devastating effects.
Okay, so with that being said, so what are some preventive measures we can take to prevent this? Or are there any preventive measures?
Oh, there are a ton of preventive measures. And the first one I want to mention is from your video. It's wearing a mask. It is the top preventable, I would say, that and physical distancing. So keeping at least 6 feet. Those two and frequently washing your hands, I would say those are our top three right there.
Okay.
And today, the CDC director, or that was yesterday, actually, the days are running together for me. But yesterday, the CDC director actually said this when he was giving testimony to Congress, that wearing a mask is actually more effective than the vaccine that's coming out, because we know that the vaccine may have around 70% effectiveness. At least that's what he was saying. And so his concern is that 30%, if you were wearing a mask, then it would prevent you from being infected if you are exposed to a virus that's in that 30% of ineffectiveness.
But because I heard him say that, but then I hear, man, other people, now, is this a myth or a lie? Wearing the mask is restrictive. It restricts your breathing. And also,
wearing a mask is not restrictive. And let me tell you why I will say that, Kyrie. We literally wear masks the entire time during surgery. We are wearing the N95 mask with the face shield. So for hours upon hours, and we are fine. All of your doctors are breathing fine. We're living fine after having worn the N95 mask for hours at a time. So that is absolutely a myth. I will be on a plane on Saturday, and I will have on a mask and a face shield the entire way, not to expose my family to COVID-19. So not
So you're
only
traveling.
that I'm practicing it,
So you're traveling.
I have to travel. Yeah.
Yeah, you-
For a family event. So because I have to travel, I will be wearing a mask and a face shield the entire time.
Okay, I'm gonna get to travel later on, a little later. But
Mhm.
now, so it doesn't restrict breathing, so that's a lie. And also about the it said I've heard people say that we're inhaling our own toxins or carbon monoxides, and that messes with our system. Is that true?
So we are inhaling carbon dioxide, but we are also inhaling oxygen. Remember that there are slits, and openings within that mask to let air in. It's filtering the air that's coming in. So air is still coming in. Otherwise, you would pass out. We would all pass out if all we were getting was CO2. But none of us are passing out, which is a sign that we're getting oxygen as well.
Now, okay, now with you just saying that, a very good friend of mine, my sister Annalisa, said, so when I have on my mask and face shield, my Apple Watch tells me to breathe.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So
So
so your Apple Watch tells you to breathe. Have you ever felt faint or like you were going to pass out? Will be my follow-up question.
I wait for her to text the site back. But yeah, I've heard other people say that it restricts breathing.
Hmm.
You have some people making these videos, and I got that from a video actually about breathing in our own toxins. So yeah,
Yeah, but
okay.
definitively, I would say that it is not.
She says her breathing is restricted. Yeah,
Her breathing is restricted. Hmm.
Could that be a pre-existing condition?
I don't want to diagnose Annalisa. I mean, this is what I'll say, Kyrie. Wearing the mask is not fun, is not comfortable for any of us. We would all rather not be wearing masks, right?
But I
Uh,
do.
it's just a necessary evil for now, if you will. It's what we have to do in order to stay safe. It's not ideal. I don't want you having to wear a mask. I don't want to have to wear a mask, but it does protect us, and it does not keep us from breathing oxygen. So that's the most important thing. It's not comfortable to me to wear an N95 mask, especially because you're supposed to push it down right here. So it is a little uncomfortable, but it's what we have to do to stay safe.
I'm all for the mask personally, because yeah, I rather do it. So now with the pre-existing conditions now, such as cancer, diabetes type 2, hypertension, in older adults. But now they're saying children, because like you just said it earlier, that children can get this, right? Because in the beginning they were saying children cannot.
Mm-hmm.
So sickle cell, HIV, pregnancy even. And so I read that if a woman is pregnant, if she's breastfeeding, she should consider having another woman who's had a baby to breastfeed her child or to give her milk. Is that myth, true, or lie?
So the reason they're saying that is that they don't know definitively if it can be passed from the breast milk. There's a lot of research we're doing right now, Kyrie, because we discovered this virus around the time that everyone else did, right? So we're doing a lot of research. So there are some physicians who would say, use breast milk from someone who's negative to ensure that it can't be passed to the baby. We just don't know. We haven't had enough time to research it. And to watch it over time. So it's better safe than sorry, I would say. But that's one that I would say that a woman, if she's pregnant, to talk to her provider about it, because her provider is going to be more up on the data specifically around pregnancy and COVID-19.
Okay. Okay, now with that being said, so okay, now so it says smokers as well. Smokers, I guess, the smokers have a higher chance of getting it or
So
contracting.
Not that they have a higher chance of contracting it, but they definitely have a higher chance of having worse outcomes if they get COVID-19. Imagine if you have someone who's been smoking 2 packs a day for 30 years, or what we would call a 60-pack year history. That person's lungs, they likely have chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD. Many of us have heard of COPD. If they develop pneumonia, they are much more at risk of being on the ventilator and dying from COVID-19. So what is really vicious about COVID-19 is it attacks our body's weaknesses. So if you already have chronic medical conditions, it just makes it easier for that virus to have that much more of an effect on your body and lead to worse health outcomes, worst case being death.
Okay. So with that being said, well, smokers, but now I was thinking, because I don't smoke cigarettes, but I was thinking weed smokers. Now, can you get it from passing a blunt back and forth?
Yes, you can get it from passing a blunt. It's in saliva. So if the saliva's on the tip of that blunt and you put your mouth to that blunt, yes, you can pass it.
That's why you can't smoke it, everybody. Got it. So now, okay, so and also it says I was reading about sex, and this lady was saying that during sex you should wear a mask during sex. Is that even possible? I mean, with that, because like Annalisa said, her breathing is already restricted. So if we fucking and I got on a mask, that's a lot of movement. That's a lot of inhaling and exhaling. So
So you can wear the mask. What I would say is instead of wearing the N95 mask, maybe wear a simple face mask that isn't as restrictive around the nose. But yes, you could wear a mask if it's with someone that you don't live with, or someone you don't know how they are protecting themselves from COVID-19. You could wear a mask because that was an additional layer of protection.
So kissing is out the question.
Kissing is out of the question. Kissing's out of the question. Rimming or tossing a salad, out of the question as well. I actually would even say some of the positions that people love to do, I would change those positions and do positions that create distance, like doggy style is a great example. So that way you're a bit further away from the partner.
Yeah, because you're facing this way and you face down, your ass up. Okay.
Now, let the missionary go. If it's with someone that you don't live with, maybe no missionary, because all that breathing on each other really does increase the risk. Okay.
So also, I also read that you can catch COVID it can be released through semen. So if it can be released through semen, then I would think that a woman who's breastfeeding, it can be released through breast milk. Or am I wrong?
So they actually have to identify it in each source. They have to actually identify it there. And they've identified it in poop, but they have not yet identified it in semen that I read, at least over the last few days. But they definitely have identified it in, wait, you're right. They've identified it in semen and in poop. They've not identified it in vaginal fluid.
Poop? Oh, well, nobody
not identified it in vaginal fluid, but they have identified it in poop and semen. So that's another reason that, you want to stay away from eating the person out, and you also want to stay away from head, because it could pre-cum as well.
Well, you shouldn't get it from poop unless you're in the scat, but that's a totally different show.
Well, even when someone doesn't scat, there could be some fecal matter there as well. So just because you're not taking in poop doesn't mean you're not exposed to fecal matter.
Got it. Another question. Annalisa said, so what about a cigar smoker?
It depends on how much that cigar smoker's smoking.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. If they're smoking a lot, just like a person who's smoking cigarettes, they are at increased risk. I think about your body as a fortress, and the more things that we do that put us at risk, the more we weaken that fortress. And when a disease comes around, if our body's weak enough, it infiltrates and can attack.
Okay, so cigar smoker. Well, I don't like cigars. I hate the smell of cigars. They stink. Now you said because it is COVID virus. It is a virus. So now, see, I was reading now. Is this true? Antibiotics do not work against the virus. They only work against bacterial infections.
Right. So we do antibiotics for bacteria and antivirals for virus. And we don't yet have an antiviral against COVID-19. So, for example, if you got the flu and it was within 3 days of you having symptoms, we would give you a medication called Tamiflu. And Tamiflu is an antiviral. So it would help your body fight off the flu. But we don't have that yet for COVID-19. So we don't have a treatment and we don't yet have a vaccine, although the vaccine is in process. And so we really don't have a way to fight this virus other than, some of the older treatments that we've had that are not directed directly towards COVID-19. So that puts us at a disadvantage when we try to treat people who are extremely sick.
Okay. So now, speaking of vaccine, will the vaccine be ready by the end of October? Is that even possible? Or will it be, or when do you think it'll be if it's not October?
So I know that this administration wants it to be before November 3rd, I'll say. I know that is what is desired. But what I want to say to your followers and everyone that's on is that the drug companies have made a pledge that they will not release this vaccine until the human trials show that the vaccine is effective. So they are not trying to rush this vaccine out and not have data to support that it actually works. So because of that, I think, we could see data in November, we could see data in January. But I know that they're not going to push the vaccine out just because this administration wants it out fast.
Now, what do you say to people who don't trust the vaccine? And I'm speaking on behalf of myself, but I'm sure I have some followers who feel the same, or maybe they do. But I don't trust the vaccine. I don't do the flu shot. And my theory for me is just keep my immune system boosted. I do my turmeric pills, elderberry, sea moss gel, and I take my multivitamins. Keep myself with. I drink orange juice and I drink green tea, or I drink ginger tea. I put ground ginger in my tea and drink that. What would you say? Is that wise? What do you suggest? What do you think?
So one of the things that I say, Kire, is that all those things that you're doing aren't separate from the vaccine. I see them all working together. I take the flu vaccine every year. And I know that people often say, oh, I'm concerned that I'm going to get the flu from the flu vaccine. So that's why I never take the flu vaccine. Well, one thing that people have to know is that it is impossible for you to get the flu from the flu vaccine. If they got the flu, they got a strain of the flu that was not covered in the vaccine. The vaccine is not going to be perfect because it is exposing our body to the previous strains that were from the year prior. So it's protecting our body. So here's what happens when a person has some symptoms. They have been given the antigen, so they've been given a little fragment that is dead of the virus. That fragment then creates antibodies in your body because now your body's being exposed to that antigen, and then your body can fight off flu when it actually comes. The thing that we know about that is that if you do get the flu, let's say you get a strain of the flu that wasn't covered, it the amount of time you would have the flu. It also decreases the chances that you would have pneumonia as well. So the reason people get sick after the flu shot almost immediately is what I was just saying, which is that the flu vaccine is exposing you to dead particles that then cause your body to create antibodies. And in creating antibodies, your body is priming itself up to fight so that way, if you are exposed to the flu, it will be able to repel it. You won't get those symptoms if you are exposed to a strain of the flu that's covered in the vaccine. Now, if you're exposed to a new strain, like the year H1N1 came out, then the flu vaccine doesn't have that in it. So you're going to get the flu, but this is to protect us from all the strains that we already have, been exposed to or been aware of to prevent you and others from getting the flu, and particularly to prevent those who are young, those who are old, those who have chronic medical conditions from dying from the flu. People don't talk about the numbers that die every year, or the number of people that have died from COVID-19 this year, and that there are so many people who are saying they're not going to get the vaccine, and unfortunately, many of them will die. Like, I don't know any other way to say that. And some may say, oh, it's natural selection or whatever. But no, I think if we have these tools in place, all I can say to my community as a Black man is that I want people to be open and get the information and decide for themselves. If you decide you don't want the vaccine, that is your prerogative. That's your decision. I'm a doctor. My thought is give you the risk, give you the benefits, let you make the decision for yourself, but be open. At least get the data is all I ask people to do, and get conversations. Let's talk about it. If you still decide you don't want the flu vaccine, it's your body. It's your choice.
Okay. Because now I don't take it because I like I said, during the wintertime, I pump myself up with elderberry and orange juice and tea. I haven't had a cold in years, so I haven't had a flu. I had the flu a long time ago. That's what made my mother put me on to elderberry. I was living in Chicago. Those winters are brutal. And one year I got extremely sick with the flu. And she told me what to get. And so
I take my turmeric pills every day. I make smoothies with elderberry and with ginger, and I add some cilantro. Cilantro is good for you as well. I regularly eat garlic. All the things that you're mentioning, Kire, I do them all, and I do the vaccine. And I'm a healthcare worker, and I will be in line to get that COVID-19 vaccine as soon as it is found to be effective.
Now, a friend of mine said the same thing. Tim. So Tim said the same thing. He's going to get the vaccine. He works for the post office. He's going to get it. I said, well, call me silly, but I'm still stuck on the Tuskegee experiment. I don't know what the fuck they're doing. I'm going to pass. It's going to be a hard pass. Yeah.
And Kire, that honestly is what we really are up against. So let me ask you, as someone who knows about the Tuskegee syphilis study and knows about this country's history of exploiting our bodies, right? You know about all of that. What can a provider like me say to make you think about it, to make you consider it? I'm not trying to change your mind. I want you to at least consider it, particularly, if you were someone who had chronic medical conditions and was at risk of dying from COVID-19. What could I say to make you think about it? I'm not trying to change your mind, but I'm trying to get people to be more open to have the discussion.
Well, it would take, for me personally, it would take a lot. Well, it would take a lot because I do know about the experiments and I just don't trust. We have things now where they just gave.
I'm here.
Women involuntarily hysterectomy. So, you know what I'm saying? That's why I don't trust anything. What happened to my chat?
Here's my question, Kire. How do we get past the past? Because what I'm trying to say is those things definitely happened in history. They are staying on American history. They're staying on a lot of our lives and things that we're always going to remember, right? But how do we get past that to ensure that our people have access to every option to stay healthy? Like, that's the conversation that I've been trying to engage in, because at some point have to get to a point to where we can at least talk about other options. And there are many of us like me, who are involved in this work who really don't want to see my people die. Like, I want to see more of my people dying.
I don't want to see my people die either. But, and it's not a but like you said, it happened in history and it did. But the women with the hysterectomy just happened last week. And so you had the sister who is what they call a whistleblower. She's telling it. So, like I said, history repeats itself. So now my friend, she said, once it's proven safe and everybody else is tested, cool, then yes, but definitely not the first in line. I love LaShonda.
I'm with LaShonda. So LaShonda, I plan that when I get the vaccine, I will have video taken when I get the vaccine, and I'm actually going to let all of my followers watch along, and I will talk about the vaccine daily and how I'm feeling and everything for a while, because I want people to know, what's going on with this. I think it's important for us to have that level of transparency, and I'm willing to do that because it's that important to me that my community at least be open to it and at least to know how it's affecting our bodies.
Now, I made a slight joke because the kid in me was serious. I said, I'll take the vaccine if it gives me mutant powers. If I can be one of the X-Men, come out of one of the I'll do it. Give me powers, that I can, like Wolverine or a Storm, I'm with it.
But Kyrie, here's the thing. You don't need the mutant powers because we are magic. We literally are magic. When you think of Henrietta Lacks and her cells and how they've been used for breast cancer research, like in our bodies, there is power, there is magic. You know what I'm saying? But I think of the vaccine as giving us an additional boost for those of us whose immune systems may be weaker, for those of us who are in contact with people whose immune systems are weaker, so that we can protect ourselves and we can protect them. I think about my 81-year-old grandmother, you know what I'm saying? And it would kill me if someone came into her house and exposed her to the virus, and they could have had the vaccine and they wouldn't have gotten the virus, and then they wouldn't have given it to her. Let's say, if something like that happened. So I not only think about myself, I'm also thinking about the way that viruses are passed, and some people's bodies are able to fight them off and others are not.
Okay, right. Well, now my mother, she'll be 79 next month. She rarely cusses, but we talk about the vaccine. She said, "Hell no." It's like LaShonda just said. This administration has truly failed and made us all doubt the vaccine. Well, they made me doubt a lot of stuff because we don't have.
I'm like, it ain't just the vaccine for me. They definitely made me doubt a ton of
everything. Yeah.
And we need a new administration, but let's not let this administration keep us from all of our options. That's my only thing, is we can't allow this administration to taint everything, because if we do, then ultimately it's us that lose. So that's why I say, let's just be open to having the conversation, to getting the data, and then make the best decision for yourself. I'm never going to tell anyone what to do, but I will always give information and let people make the best decision for themselves.
Okay, now I'm willing to have a conversation. Let me see a pamphlet. It has to be around for a while before I would get it. I don't have the best of luck. Okay, I don't have the best of luck. I want to make sure it's okay first. And I respect that.
I respect it.
And LaShawn said they're pushing it too quick to companies today. Said they would be ready by October. Oh, we talked about that, LaShawn, in October. But that's strictly for the election. That's so the orange jackass will look good. That's what that's about.
But I would like to say again, to LaShonda's point, that all the pharmaceutical companies have taken a pledge that they will not apply to the FDA to get approval until they actually have data that proves that it works. And so I actually believe that, because that's never been done before, where all of these pharmaceutical companies came together. These companies are fighting against what this administration is saying and against the rush, because they don't want to not trust the vaccine. What's the point of having a vaccine if people aren't even going to trust it enough to take it? There's no point. It won't even have a real effect unless a certain amount of people take it.
Well, that's true. Now, with you saying you take it, now, are you taking it because you actually trust it, or are you taking it because you have to, because you're in healthcare?
No, I'm taking it because I believe in science. Two, I not only want to protect myself, but I want to protect my family and the other people around me. And three, I will have done my own research and reviewed the data, and I will go in fully knowing, everything I can know about the vaccine at that time, and I will then take the vaccine. I will be informed and then move forward.
Okay, now foods were willing to do bleach and yeah, they were. The drug that Trump was putting, the hydrochloric, whatever it is, which I don't. I would never push that on anyone, because my aunt took that for her arthritis, and it caused her vision, and caused her to have a vision impairment. So yeah, I would never push it, and that is a side effect.
Mm-hmm.
And ordinarily, and
we're willing to do bleach and that other drug, but there was not yet the data to show those things, right? So
right.
once we're at a place where we have the vaccine, there will be data to show that this vaccine works. Looks like Dante gave a very important point.
He gave a great point. It's important for Black people to take part in clinical trials. Otherwise, the findings will be skewed and racially biased. Dante, Tuskegee experiment. Yeah.
So I agree with Dante. I have to go to bat for that. I agree with Dante, and let me tell you the reason that I agree. For many reasons, but one of the reasons that I agree with Dante, we know that many of the drugs that we currently take and many of the treatments that we have in medicine, they were studied on young white men. So we can't expect that what worked for a young white man will automatically translate to us. So we need to be a part of those studies so that way we know that it will work well for us, so that we know that it's effective, so that we also then have people who can talk about what their experiences were. We do need to be involved in research trials. We don't need to be exclusively involved, but we should be a part of these trials because that's how we ensure that the treatments are effective for us. To me, that is a form of advocacy for our people. We need
I can get with that. I can get with that, and I can agree with it, but I just have trust issues. For me, I'm never telling anybody, don't you go get that vaccine. I'm never doing that because I agree with you. We're all grown. Do what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, as far as Kyrie, Eric, right now it's a hard pass, but I'm willing to have the conversation. With my friend Leo, I am willing to have a conversation.
So Kyrie, I appreciate that you're willing to have the conversation with me. To me, that's all I would ask of every person that's watching this is let's have the conversation. If at the end of the day you still decide no, then no. But I've found a lot of people are like hard pass as soon as they hear the word vaccine.
That's true.
I think that leads, to more of us being at risk.
Okay, well, okay. But now, so going back to what you said with the flu, because my girl asked, and how you get sick from the flu, and you said it's because it's certain strands that's not there. So now, are there certain strands of COVID that won't be touched with the vaccine? I mean, it can't,
So here's the thing about viruses and bacteria. They mutate every day. So what we're going to do is have every strain that's possible that we've identified. They're going to try to cover as many of those strains as possible in that vaccine. But keep in mind, like I said, viruses are nimble, bacteria are nimble, and so they all are able to mutate. So we will continue to have to update vaccines. I don't know what the interval will be for this vaccine. They've not yet said how often, right, that you would have to take the vaccine. I can't speak to that because I don't know what that will look like. But often vaccines, they have to be updated. If it's going to be like the flu, then it would have to be updated regularly. I don't know what that interval will be.
So now, how often is the flu vaccine updated?
So the flu vaccine is updated every year. That's why you have to get the flu vaccine yearly if you're getting the flu vaccine. I get it every
I've never taken it. So I'm gonna go back to LaShonda, what she was saying about the administration. So the administration is really pushing people to not wear the mask, not take the vaccine. Well, yeah, not at first not take the vaccine, but now that he's pushing vaccine. So now they want to do that. But
can I speak to that? Can I speak to that for a moment?
Yes, sir.
So Trump, well, not even just Trump, but his administration, they've been focused from the beginning, like you said, on not wearing masks. So if they're focused on not wearing masks and there's an option that will ultimately lead to people not having to wear masks, then they're going to jump on that option. They will then choose to advocate for whatever will keep people from having to wear masks for a long time. So that's why I think they're vaccine. Did you hear that Trump actually talked down Robert Redfield's responses to the Congress, saying that essentially we won't be wearing masks until like 2021 or 2022, and that the vaccine will be more effective than masks. So he wants to push this conversation to whatever will get people out of masks, unfortunately, but the data does not support that. So I want us to keep in mind the data does not support that this vaccine is going to be 100% effective, because nothing is 100% effective. So I just want to keep that in mind for everyone. All right, so let's see. I think everybody's body is different and it could affect everyone different. Some may get sick and others will be fine, just like the flu shots. So I agree. Everyone's body, and that is true, that we can't expect that everyone's going to have the same experience from the COVID-19 vaccine. Kyrie, I was just responding to Pam's point about everybody's body being different.
Okay. Now, I heard some of what you said. I don't know what happened, but I was gone. Did you see me?
Yeah, I saw that you left, but we got to keep this show rolling. So I just kept talking.
Yeah, keep it rolling. Okay. I heard most of what you said. Very good point. Okay. So with that said, so now he's calling it a PR stunt. He's also what is this? Oh, yeah, it's a PR stunt, but he's saying that it's getting better, and people are falling for that. But yet there are 40,000 new cases every day and 1,000 deaths. Now, the 1,000 deaths per day or per week?
Day. Wait. 1,000. Yeah, it's per day. Mm-hmm.
Deaths. So that's not good. And so now he wants to do this. It's something new. I know the Midwest numbers are spiking up, but he wants to do the herd immunity. And so herd immunity. Well, do you know what that is?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Explain that before I go into that to the people.
Sure. So herd immunity is the thought that we will expose so many people to the virus that after they've been exposed, they would have antibodies built up in their body, so that when they're exposed again, they would not get the virus, and then they wouldn't pass the virus on to someone else. But here's the issue with this thought about herd immunity, Kyrie. We don't know how long antibodies will actually last in the body. And we've seen through data that the antibodies may last anywhere from a few weeks to 3 months. So getting sick with COVID-19 is not showing that it's going to keep people from getting the virus again, thereby keeping other people from getting infected. So the data does not support herd immunity. In addition, herd immunity also will cause millions of people to die, because there are people who are exposed to COVID-19 who will then die from COVID-19. So herd immunity is not the way. Because
in order for herd immunity to happen, there has to be 6.93 million people to die, which means over 200. There's only 300 million or whatever people, but it has to be 230 million people to be infected with the virus. Mm-hmm. And I bet the 6.93 million has to die. How are people still backing this man up? I don't understand.
I don't have any comment on that, because I know where I stand.
Right. So, with that said, now before I let you go, before we go, I also want to address, these pool parties and sex parties, like what? And it's, how can we get people to stop that? Or at least have a conversation about that?
So, Kyrie, this one is a difficult one for me, honestly, because I genuinely believe that the people are at those parties know, and they just don't give a.
I think, yeah, but I think they think it's a hoax, as it was called in the very beginning. Remember in the very beginning, this is a hoax from the Democrats.
Oh no, I know people. I know people who have gone to those parties knowing that COVID-19 is real, knowing people who infected with COVID-19. I honestly think that there are a lot of people who are just sick of being in the house and feel like, if I'm going to get it, I'm going to get it. So I'm going to go out and live my life. I mean, it was
That's selfish, in my opinion. That's a selfish way to be.
yeah,
But like Dante,
but in America, a lot of us are self-centered and selfish. Let's
that's
be
true.
honest. That's the reason there's so much pushback. In China, they said wear those masks. People were in those masks when they told them to quarantine at home. They were at home. In our country, you tell people to do that, they say you're encroaching on my rights. I have a right to not wear a mask. I have a right to do X, Y, and Z. In other words, I have a right to put other people at risk. I have a right to be out. But as soon as we shut everything down, then it's an issue.
But an Uber driver told me I feel enslaved. I said, and then he kind of thought about it. He's like, okay, I'm talking to this black man about being enslaved. I just said, really? Okay. Now,
You get to stay in your home with food. All of the things. It's like, seriously, you feel enslaved? You can't have your life your way at every moment because you actually have to sacrifice. Now you feel enslaved?
Now, Dante, did we make a mistake by opening the schools?
So I think the biggest mistake that we made is who we have in office, because what was clearly put ahead of everything else was the economy and wanting to save face to keep the stock market from tanking. If we had invested early, schools would be able to open. You know why? Because there would be more money that went into making schools more safe for COVID, for people to go to school and be and not be exposed to COVID-19. They would have invested more money into ensuring that the spacing could be adequate and things of that nature. I do think that at this point, going back to school, we're going to see another spike. We're already starting to see more cases, and Europe is having a major spike. I was reading about that today. A lot of those countries that were doing so well have seen at least a 10% increase in cases over the past week, increases in hospitalization. So that's just a sign for us of what we are to face over this fall and winter.
Right. And here in the Midwest, the numbers are really spiking, especially here where I live in Cincinnati, Ohio. We're the number one cases in the whole state, which is like, Hamilton, Ohio, which is basically part of Cincinnati or whatever. But yeah.
Yeah, and we're only going to see more cases as schools reopen, as businesses continue to reopen. We still are not 2 weeks away from Labor Day, so we actually don't even know where we really are as far as the peak is concerned for cases, because it takes about 2 weeks for us to see that in the data. So we really don't know, Kire, at this point, if we're not already in a spike of cases, because I definitely saw some pictures and people were not distancing and they were not wearing those masks over Labor Day.
Right. And I really I wanted to be in Atlanta myself, but the event that I attend, it was canceled, and rightfully so.
Smart people.
Right. I go to House of the
Pride was not canceled, but Pride.
And they were outside fighting and acting a fool. Yeah, the House in the Park, but it was canceled. But I'm praying to the universe that next year I can go to House in the Park in Atlanta and Soul Nick in LA. Oh yeah. Let's pray, people. Pray, people. Whoever it is you pray to, pray.
I'll pray with you and I won't comment on that.
Or one of my cousins, I asked, traveling, because you say you're traveling. Now, when do you think, let me ask, Dante asked first, has the curve ever flattened in the U.S.?
Has the curve ever flattened in the U.S.? I would actually say that it flattened and started to decrease a bit. And it has definitely decreased here in L.A.
It decreased to LA.
We're seeing a decrease, but I'm concerned that we're going to see it go right back up. So the thing I'll say to Dante's question is we definitely saw flattening both here and we saw a flattening in a lot of those European countries as well. But now we're getting ready to see a second wave, a true second wave. I think it's coming, and within the next few weeks.
But Dr. Fauci had said in the very beginning that we were going to get a new wave come the fall. But he had already said it, but Trump has gotten rid of him now. But even this new guy that he has is really saying the same thing.
But think about it, Kyrie. A lot of activities that you would otherwise do outdoors in the summer, you're not going to be able to do, in the fall and winter. In certain places and other parts of the country, in the Northeast and the Midwest, it gets cold. People are going to have to be inside more. And contrary to popular belief, the most transmission we see is usually from family members or people that live together, because they are confined in that space together for prolonged periods of time. So if you've ever noticed that when one person gets a cold or the flu in the house, it usually travels around before it works its way out. That will be no different, and it's different with COVID-19.
Wow. So now with traveling, because you mentioned traveling, so person travel, like it's somewhere I'm going next month. What would you say to a traveler? Like, what should we do?
So I can tell you what I plan to do for the travel that I have to do. If I didn't have to travel, Kyrie, I wouldn't be traveling. I've not traveled on a plane for the last 8 months or so, So I wouldn't at this time if I didn't have to. But if I have to, I'll be wearing a mask. I'll probably wear just a surgical mask, not the mask not the N95 mask, but a surgical mask. And then the surgical mask is like that light blue one, that, the white straps, not the N95 mask. And then I'll wear a face shield. I don't plan to take it off the entire 5 hours. Like from the time I get on the plane until the time I get off, I then plan to discard those things as soon as I get off the plane, sanitize my hands, put on another face covering, and then get in the car with my mom. That's my plan.
Okay. So, okay. That's I'm going to take to everything you said to heart. In terms of COVID information and facts, who should we be listening to? Not Trump. Is the CDC trustworthy?
So right now, I think that the CDC is under a lot of pressure that is affecting their recommendations and their messages. So who I would trust is actually your local health departments. I would trust them. I would also trust Johns Hopkins and some of the other universities that are not being influenced because they are going to tell you the facts. So I usually will go to Hopkins, all of their COVID-19 pages, because they have up-to-date data. And so, I wouldn't depend on CDC, because I find that a lot of their recommendations are being watered down to suit the needs and the desires of this administration.
Okay. Now, what are the safest masks to wear in your opinion?
The safest mask to wear. We know that the N95 is the superior mask. But that mask, because so many people went out and bought them up, we were having trouble having them in the hospitals, which is where we are definitely being exposed in the hospital. I want you to think for a second about a doctor who's standing over a person who's laying down. So the person's laying down, I'm standing right here, I'm intubating them, I'm putting a tube into their throat. Think about all of that air and saliva that's coming up in that moment. That puts me at much more risk than you if you're in a grocery store across the way from someone else. So although an N95 is the safest mask, we expect that people should be keeping their distance. So the surgical mask, the one that I just mentioned, the light blue ones, or even your face coverings will keep you safe if you keep your distance. But also, if you ensure that you're sanitizing and washing your hands regularly, and you ensure that when you take that mask off, that you don't then touch your face, you take that mask off, you discard it, then you clean your hands. We got to make sure that our practices are going to keep us safe. So not as much about the safest mask as it really is about which mask is going to do the job and consistently wearing the mask.
Now this is my question. So, because you say wash your hands, which is what I do. Is hand sanitizer really safe? Because I had read a long time ago that hand sanitizer really only just pushes around the germs, which is why I've never used it. Now, I really don't like how it feels on my hands anyway, but for that reason, I've never used it before COVID was even thought of.
So I think you brought up a great point about germs being in your hands. Our bodies are always going to have bacteria and viruses kind of roaming around, more so bacteria than viruses. But the more that we wash our hands, washing our hands is better than sanitizer, but sanitizer does work. And the reason that washing our hands is better is that there are some harmful bacteria that sanitizer will not work for. So one great example is Clostridium difficile, or C. diff. It causes a horrible diarrhea, usually after a person has been taking antibiotics. They get an overgrowth of this bacteria in their gut, and they get diarrhea. That bacteria cannot be washed off with sanitizer. You put the sanitizer on, and that bacteria is like, whatever, you know what I'm saying? It just stays in your hands. Whereas if you wash your hands, you get that bacteria off. So my preference is always to wash your hands. If there's a sink, wash your hands. But if there is not a sink, use that sanitizer because it does work.
Okay. So everyone, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Everyone who tuned in, thank you. Of course. And I will be having you back for other medical shows or just having you back, period.
I can't wait.
Yeah, I love conversing with you. Thank you. Everyone, tune in to Leo. Give everyone your information where they can reach you and your show.
Sure. So the Practical MD, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at the Practical MD. I release a show every Monday called the Monday Medical Message. It's a short show with high yield information, easy to understand about health topics. And then I also do a 30-minute show called the Practical 30 a few times a month where I talk to a subject matter expert about health topics. So hope you'll tune in. This was great. Thank you again, Kire.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you all for tuning in. Join me again next week as my guest will be actor, comedian, Christian Fraser. Everyone, thank you again. Have a great weekend. Love yourself, love each other, and most of all, wear the mask. Put your mask on. Put it on. All right, everyone. Thank you. Have a great weekend. Peace.